I'd like to do a piece on this guy. His name is Waterhead Bo Bennett from the West Side. I always heard about this guy. They say he's one of the most influential, big-time guys in LA. He's real secretive, but I always used to hear about him in the neighborhoods, and a lot of times they say he was kin to PeeDee Wacc for '60s, and I always used to hear about Bo Bennett and Harry O and Tommy and a lot of these guys, young Tommy, a lot of these guys, but come to find out that this guy was one of the biggest guys in LA. And I come to understand a little bit more about him. One night I was at the Haute, and I think Bo Bennett had just got busted, and this guy was up there saying that he heard Bo Bennett got busted, and this other guy was mad named Bobby that I played football with at Bethune Park. He was like, man, don't talk about my cousin, man. But I always heard about Waterhead Bo Bennett, and I heard he had a crime partner named Mario in Colombia. I heard that Bo Bennett got caught up with a Colombian guy. He's one of the most guys that had a connection with the Colombians. But to make a long story short, I heard that he kind of like ran the West Side with the multi kilograms keys. And I never had actually seen Waterhead Bo, but I always heard about different things and different people he messed with. But to make a long story short, I ended up going to one of the first prisons I went to in the federal system was Terre. And while in Terre, I was there with some major guys from all over the town. And I heard that Waterhead Bo was there. He was there with a bunch of other guys that had already been in the feds before, but they was in for like bank robbery and other little small things. But this guy kind of stuck out a little bit because they say he always liked to play basketball. He wasn't really into the weights, but I was in the USP Terre, one of the most vicious prisons in the United States. And I was there at a time where the system was just changing over from bank robbers, white collar crime. You had a lot of DC guys there. You had a lot of guys that did, like in '87, they said that they was gonna close the feds down because it wasn't that many people in the feds. And they changed the law in '87. That what made a lot of people come in. But to talk about this guy, Bo Bennett, Waterhead. Everybody used to call him Waterhead. They never really used his whole name. But I was waiting on to see this guy. I had been in Terre for a few weeks, but I had never really seen him because he didn't go to the kitchen. I think he had his food brought to him. And like in Terre, you can order food a little bit back then. When I first got there, it was real wide open. They had vending machines and stuff like this. But I never really seen Bo Bennett until they had a basketball league, and I went down there a couple times, but I still didn't see him. But I always heard that he was on the basketball team, and he was one of the smartest guys that I ever met, that I ever heard people talk about. He can go through any subject, he can go through any category, and I still haven't seen him, but I had heard that he was there because I had talked to some guys. So one day I was on a visit, and the visit room was kind of crowded, and I was coming out the visiting room, and have you ever seen a guy that people talk about him so much that you never really, you act like you kind of know him already, or you just know a picture of how he looked. And this is how the first time I seen Waterhead Bo. I was coming out the visiting room, and I seen that this guy was walking down the hallway, and I noticed that he was looking at me, and I was looking at him. I really wanted to say something to him, but I never really had spoke to him. I never really had been up close to him, so I didn't really say nothing, but I just nodded my head like, I know who you is, and you know what I'm saying? You know, it's just a respect thing. And I nodded my head, he nodded his head. And I think he was wondering where I was coming from. So when I noticed he looked up at the wall, and the wall had visited on it. And when I come out the visiting room and I see him and he nodded, I nodded, he was like, okay, I heard this guy was from California, but how was a guy like me getting visits way in Terre, because that's in Indiana. And I seen a few guys get visits, but it's hard to get visits down there because your people had to come down there and spend a lot of money. And they had cost a lot of money to get down there. They had to stay in a room. But it's just expensive going to Terre. So when I seen Waterhead Bo, all of the stories and all of my imagination and all of the stories and all of the vivid reminders of who this guy was, and I just wanted to see how he walked and how he presented himself. And he always presented himself like a guy that had played like pro basketball. That's kind of what he kind of reminded me of, a guy that was like maybe played for Crenshaw or played varsity basketball, maybe a little football. But I think I seen him a few times on the baseball field. But I know he loved to be on the basketball court, and he loved to talk sports, and he loved to talk about different teams and everything like that. But I had just got to Terre, so I really didn't know a lot of things about, you know, into the sports, into the tickets and everything like that. But I always knew when he was talk to people, he was always like talk like in a little private thing. And you know, after that day, I had started seeing him more often, and I seen him, you know, more often in Terre Haute, you know, different units and in the gym and different places on the yard. And then he always used to talk to guys from LA and certain guys and stuff like that. But a lot of guys that I kind of like met, they wasn't like on his level onto the business. But I had ran into, I think Guy Fisher was there, JR was there. And, you know, just to talk about this guy and his status into the culture. You know, a lot of times people talk about the cocaine cowboys. They talk about the freeway Ricks. They talk about this other guy that I ran into, that I knew his wife. His name was, he had a candy apple red Cadillac. His name was Suge. He was from the West Side. Everybody used to always talk about these West Side guys. And this Waterhead Bo, man, he was kind of like a real Kingpin. He was on a major level. And when you see him and you see his demeanor and you see the way he walk and talk, then you see that this guy was up there with the Harry O's, the Ray Rays, all of the major guys, Baby Gangsters, all of these guys that I kind of like knew from the West Side of LA. What was the guy named? He used to be at Bethune Park, Jimbo's. A lot of these guys, man, that this guy just stood out. And he was a real popular guy. He was a real businessman. And when I got to Terre Haute, when I got to Lompoc, a lot of guys was like, "Hey man, you know, was you up in Terre Haute with Waterhead Bo?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." And they was talking about, you know, his crime partner Mario was here, and I think that Bo Bennett and Mario got caught with an overseas phone count, which was illegal because they tap the phones in Colombia, and they don't supposed to do that. But this guy, man, he was in with the right people. He was from the West Side, and a lot of times you really don't really see a lot of the guys from the West Side because, you know, we live way on the East Side. But I always used to hear about this guy, and a lot of the stories that I ran into, I heard that was about Waterhead Bo. And this guy, man, I actually ended up meeting him. And I also got a chance to greet him. And it's just that this culture of drugs is real business, and this thing has really become a big phenomenon. And just to put this guy in the right perspective into the culture, this guy actually is in the top 5 major guys in Los Angeles. I know he's in the top 10. I think he's in the major top 5. Could be in the top 4. But this guy was a major guy in LA, Waterhead Bo.